Coming up on Primetime News, President Park Geun-hye kicks off her U.S. trip to take part in the United Nations General Assembly. Before embarking on her journey, the president warns Pyongyang it will pay the price for any possible provocations. And as Seoul gears up to expand its diplomatic presence in the largest UN gathering of world leaders, foreign ministers of South Korea and Japan are set to meet on the sidelines of the General Assembly. Plus, though no Korean casualties have been reported, more than 700 people are dead and nearly 900 are injured in a stampede outside the holy city of Mecca. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome to Primetime News on this Friday, September 25th. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And I'm Daniel Che. It's good to have you with us. President Park Geun-hye has left for New York to attend two key UN events.
She will offer congratulatory remarks on the organization's 70th anniversary and deliver Korea's stance on a slate of major issues up for discussion. Hwang Sung-hee has our top story.
First on President Park Geun-hye's agenda is the UN Sustainable Development Summit. She will give a keynote speech on Saturday where more than 150 world leaders will adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Later on the same day, President Park will attend a special high-level forum on Korea's Rural Community Development Program, also known as the Semaul Movement.
By explaining the global version of the Semaul movement, we anticipate the program will develop into one of international dimensions.
At the UN General Assembly on Monday, President Park's second since taking office, she will congratulate the organization on its 70th anniversary, offering a review of its achievements and her recommendations for its future. She's also expected to outline Korea's diplomatic policy goals and reaffirm Korea's desire to contribute to key global issues, including peace and security, as well as climate change. On the sidelines of the UN events, President Park is slated to meet with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and hold summits with her Pakistani and Danish counterparts, respectively, for talks on stronger economic cooperation. Wrapping up her four-day stay, the president will visit the Korean Cultural Service Center in New York for the opening ceremony of the K-Culture Exhibition Hall in a bid to further spread Hallyu, or the Korean wave. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Before embarking on her trip, President Park held an interview with a foreign media outlet in which she had strong words regarding possible North Korean provocations expected to mark a landmark anniversary in Pyongyang next month. Connie Kim reports.
Ahead of South Korean President Park Geun-hye's trip to the UN General Assembly, she warned North Korea that it'll pay a high price if it launches a provocation in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. In an interview with Bloomberg on Thursday, President Park said the government is devoting all of its diplomatic efforts to stop Pyongyang from engaging in hostile acts. North Korea hinted at launching a long-range rocket and said it's ready to resume nuclear tests last week, amid growing speculation that a provocation will mark the 70th anniversary of the ruling Workers' Party next month. With the international community keeping a close eye on North Korea for possible provocations, new satellite imagery from 38 North shows new activity at the Punggye-ri site where North Korea conducted its 3 previous nuclear tests. An unusually large number of vehicles were spotted, and an area in front of a tunnel dug before 2012 has been widened at the nuclear test site. 38 North says the purpose of the recent activities at the nuclear site is unclear, saying it could be maintenance. Seoul's Unification Ministry said the Punggye-ri site shows no signs of an imminent nuclear test. Some experts say, however, North Korea could be essentially carrying out a nuclear test should it launch a long-range rocket.
North Korea views a long-range rocket and nuclear tests as a set. If the regime launches the long-range rocket, it's just a matter of time before a nuclear test follows.
North Korea's previous 3 nuclear tests all came within 6 months of a North Korean long-range rocket launch. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
This year will be the largest gathering of world leaders ever at the United Nations, and Seoul is looking to maximize the benefits of expanding its diplomatic presence and seeking cooperation for denuclearizing Pyongyang. Song Ji-sun sheds light on what's scheduled for Seoul's diplomacy talks at the UN headquarters.
At this year's 70th UN General Assembly, Seoul wants to cement its status as a role model to help others emulate South Korea's success. That begins with sharing its Hema movement for countries seeking economic development through modernizing agricultural society. Seoul also shares its vision and knowledge in the education and health sectors at the Sustainable Development Summit, while answering the call of UN Secretary General Park Geun-hye to help resolve the refugee crisis. Another goal is to build international consensus for denuclearizing Pyongyang and to establish a prompt countermeasure process on imposing sanctions in case of North Korean provocations. Stability in the Northeast Asia region through such efforts will be a key agenda item discussed during the trilateral foreign ministers' talks involving Korea, Japan, and the United States set for Tuesday. Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se will meet up with his Japanese counterpart, Fumio Kishida, the following day, likely to discuss Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women, as summit talks between the two countries hinge on resolving the issue by way of Japan issuing a formal apology. Yoon will also sit down with foreign ministers of a dozen other countries, including the UK, Germany, and Iran over the 2 days, and with regional blocs like the Arab League and Community of Latin American and Caribbean states to improve political and economic ties. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
The Presidential Office of Cheongwade has launched a probe into the Defense Acquisition Program Administration, or DAPA, over suspicions of mishandling a multi-billion-dollar Korean fighter jet project. For more, we turn to our Kim Hyun-bin.
According to a Defense Ministry official on Friday, the Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs on Thursday demanded that the Defense Acquisition Program Administration hand over related documents of the questionable KFX project. The military official says the DAPA is preparing related documents to submit to the top office. The presidential probe will reportedly focus on the unsuccessful transaction with U.S. fighter jet manufacturer Lockheed Martin, as well as the design of the KFX jets. The KFX project came under scrutiny after 4 major technologies, including active electronically scanned array radar, along with related radar components, were blocked for export by the U.S. government due to its technology trade protection policy. Under the agreement between DAPA and Lockheed Martin last April, 25 technologies were to be exported after a sideline deal was reached to purchase 40 F-35A 5th-generation jets earlier this year. The U.S. State Department has 21 technologies still pending, although the DAPA says approval is almost assured. The KFX project is estimated to cost 18 trillion won, or a little over $15 billion US, including research and development, to produce 120 homegrown combat jets to replace the country's aging fleet by 2025. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Holiday traffic has begun to pile up here in Korea as millions of people hit the road to visit their hometowns in time for Chuseok, the Korean Thanksgiving holiday. The Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport predicts that about 32 million people will be traveling nationwide until Tuesday next week, when the 4-day Chuseok holiday comes to an end. The ministry also expects the worst amount of congestion on Saturday morning as well as Sunday evening, the actual day of Chuseok. A mass exodus happens in Korea every year on major national holidays like Chuseok and Lunar New Year. And today, President Park Geun-hye extended wishes for a happy and safe Chuseok in a video message posted on her Facebook page and the website of the Presidential Office of Cheongwade. President Park thanked the people for the support she's received so far, saying it has helped the country weather through difficult times. She also pledged to make further efforts to help revive the local economy.
The emissions scandal that has engulfed Volkswagen is getting more toxic by the day. In addition to the fraud causing the European countries to bow to pressure to rerun tests on cars, a fresh study reveals worrying news for other automakers. Shin Se-min reports.
The diesel emissions fraud scandal at Germany's Volkswagen is deepening. What started with Volkswagen has prompted the European Union to urge all 28 member nations to launch their own investigation, with all new diesel cars in Britain just waiting for retests. And a report on BMW showed the diesel version of its X3 sport utility vehicle is also violating the rule, emitting more than 11 times the European limit for air pollution. Stocks plunged on Volkswagen's front, falling nearly 30% since news of Volkswagen's Clean Air Act violations broke a week ago, and dropping to more than 50% less than the 52-week high reached in March. The fallout of the carbon emission scandal may even become too great for Germany's automaker to handle on its own.
In theory, any VW customer can find a way to sue for damages. Even pedestrians, residents, and neighbors can claim they've been affected. I think there will be an avalanche of lawsuits.
Other automakers may be dragged into the wake of the scandal. A study by the International Council on Clean Transportation, an organization that first revealed the German automakers' discrepancies, shows that Hyundai, Renault, and Volvo diesel cars would also fail emissions tests under the coming European rules. Other manufacturers tested multiple models, while the 3 car manufacturers only had a single model tested. It's worrisome, as this is just the beginning for increased scrutiny of the entire auto industry and its methods for testing vehicles, with the complete extent of the fallout still unknown. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
More than 700 people were killed and 800 injured near Mecca on Thursday. World leaders are among those continuing their expression of condolences to the families of the victims. Lee Soo-hun has the latest.
More than 2 million Muslims gathered near the Saudi Arabian city of Mecca for the annual Hajj pilgrimage when a stampede broke out near the city on Thursday. Saudi Arabian media report that the incident has killed more than 700 and injured over 860 victims. The death toll may rise further as bodies are still being counted, with many of the injured in critical condition. An official at the Korea Muslim Federation told Arirang TV that over 200 Muslims who reside in South Korea, including 20 to 30 South Korean nationals, made the pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia. The Korean embassy in Riyadh has confirmed that there have yet to be any reports of South Korean nationals hurt in the stampede. Meanwhile, in New York, Pope Francis expressed his sympathy to Muslims regarding the incident.
I give my sentiments of closeness in the face of tragedy that your people have suffered today in Mecca.
UN Chief Ban Ki-moon also sent his condolences in a message.
My deepest condolences to many hundreds of people who died, and my deepest condolences to the families and friends and governments and people of those affected.
The tragic stampede comes just 2 weeks after a crane collapsed in the same area, claiming the lives of more than 100 people. Lee Soo-hun, Arirang News.
Korea continues to expand its broadcasting territory through content exports and collaborations with stations around the world.
And most recently, the Korea Communications Commission's, or KCC, Korea's top broadcasting regulator, has been looking east, scanning for exciting collaborative opportunities.
And for an in-depth discussions on the KCC's latest milestone, we have the organization's chief, Choi Sung-jun, in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good evening.
I know you're jet lagged. You've been all over the world, China and Malaysia recently, and in Kuala Lumpur you attended the Asia-Pacific Regulators Roundtable, and of course Southeast Asian countries are a big part of what Hallyu is today. So I understand you have made a pledge to provide support to help Korean broadcasting content reach out to more parts of the world. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and perhaps other key topics that you've discussed in Malaysia?
지난 8월 말에 말레이시아 쿠알라룸푸르에서 제5회 ITO 아태 규제자 라운드 테이블이 있었습니다. 거기에서 38개국의 규제기관장들이 참석한 가운데 주제가 방송통신, 그다음에 ICT 생태계 하에서의 OTT였습니다. 그 주제에 대해서 제가 그런 새로운 규제 이슈들을 발표를 했고, 그다음에 그런 새로운 규제 이슈들에 대응해 나가기 위해서는 OTT의 성격상 각 나라에서만 정책을 해서는 안 되고 서로 국가 간에 공조가 필요하다는 그러한 제안을 하고 앞으로 협의체를 구성해서 논의를 해나가자고 제안을 했습니다. 이번에 38개국이 모인 그 자리에서 10개국의 19개 방송국이 87개 작품을 내가지고 또 이외에 방송 콘텐츠 쇼케이스도 같이 했고, 그 KL 컨버지라고 해서 다양한 디지털 콘텐츠들을 보여주는 행사를 해서 저희도 한국 부스를 만들어가지고 거기에서 우리나라 한류 콘텐츠들을 좀 마음껏 외국 사람들한테 자랑을 하고 외국으로부터 굉장히 좋은 호평을 받았습니다.
And Chinese investors are keen to pour money into the Korean media content. In some cases, we hear that China is even involved in their production. What's your take on this?
최근에 그 한국과 중국 사이에 지금 다양한 교류가 일어나고 있습니다. 최근에는 중국이 그런 식으로 우리나라의 컨텐츠를 그대로 방송하는 것이 아니고 예를 들면 포맷을 가져가서 중국 사람을, 중국의 유명인을 거기다가 출연시키든지 또는 한국의 연출자, 또 한국의 굉장히 중국에서 인기 있는 연예인들을 데려가든지 해서 중국이 또 이렇게 만들기도 합니다. 이제는 서로가 장점을 가진 부분, 예를 들자면 중국은 자본이 아직도 충분하고 그다음에 시장이 굉장히 넓지 않습니까? 거기에 비해서 우리나라는 그동안의 기획력, 창의적인 기획력을 가지고 있고 그다음에 제작 기법이 굉장히 뛰어납니다. 지금 한중 FTA에는 한국과 중국 사이에 드라마라든지 애니메이션 같은 거에 공동적 협정을 추진하도록 되어 있습니다. 그래서 요번에 그 중국의 우리나라 이제 방송통신위원회에 해당하는 것이 국가신문출판광전총국이라는 곳이 있는데 그것과 서로 있는 공동적 협정도 얘기를 했습니다. 중국과 또 힘을 합쳐서 뭐 미국의 할리우드 못지않은 전 세계 콘텐츠를 이렇게 공급할 수 있는 그런 환경도 될 수 있다고 생각을 합니다.
Right, we talked about cooperation, collaboration to create new projects with China. But of course, one thing the two countries have in common is we read trend very fast, we adapt very fast, and we learn from each other quite well as well. We understand that the KCC signed an agreement with China also to boost exchange in broadcast programs. What do you expect from this deal?
더욱더 관계를 발전해 나가야 되는데 조금 전에 말씀드렸던 것처럼 공동적 협정이 우선 필요하다고 생각이 돼서 연구반도 구성하고 그다음에 실무 협의체를 추진하기로 그렇게 서로 의견을 나누었습니다. 저작권을 침해당하면서 이렇게 좀 유통되는 경우가 아직도 좀 남아 있습니다. 그래서 그런 부분에 대해서 좀 철저한 저작권 보호를 좀 당부를 했습니다. 그리고 또 좀 다른 측면이긴 하지만은 중국의 인터넷상에서 우리나라의 또 개인 정보들이 막 이렇게 다니고 있는 부분이 있어서 그런 부분에 관해서도 중국의 해당 부서하고 논의를 좀 하고 돌아왔습니다.
But KCC aims to further enhance ties with other countries to breathe fresh life into the media content. Could you tell us more about your organization's plan on this?
뉴 미디어 기기들이 나오면서 사실 방송 콘텐츠에 국경이 지금 없이 활발한 교류가 지금 일어나고 있습니다. 결국에는 이런 데 대응을 하려면 저희들이 기본적으로 저희가 갖고 있는 고유의 정서, 문화 이런 거를 잘 살리면서도 또 이런 세계적인 흐름에 같이 잘 균형을 맞춰서 동화가 돼야 된다고 생각을 합니다. 그런 균형이 잘 잡힐 수 있도록 뒷받침을 해주는 게 방송통신위원회 역할이라고 생각을 합니다. 저희로서도 ITU나 또는 IIC 같은 그런 국제기구에서 어젠다가 형성이 됐을 때 저희도 적극 참여를 하는 그런 것이 중요하다고 생각이 됩니다.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm and your passionate explanation as to what the KCC has in store for us in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now for top international headlines, we turn to our Bruce Harrison in the News Center.
Today's focus, Pope Francis speaks at the United Nations in New York. President Barack Obama and his Chinese counterpart meet in Washington amid simmering tensions, and Apple releases its latest smartphone to the delight of many, some who camped out to be the first to own it.
Well, Bruce, tell us more about the Pope's speech and the 70th session of the UN General Assembly.
Well, Daniel, Pope Francis's trip to the U.S. has been full of firsts for him and the country. And according to the New York Times, the UN General Assembly will be the largest gathering of presidents and prime ministers at the organization's headquarters, and the first time a pope speaks before such a large gathering of world leaders. The pontiff addressed U.S. Congress Thursday, telling lawmakers to reject hostility toward immigrants and treat them humanely. He's expected to deliver a message focused on helping the poor and marginalized before the UN as Europe and much of the world wrangle with the worst immigration crisis since World War II. The global summit will officially open following the Pope's address. Leaders aim to launch a new framework of sustainable development to wipe out poverty and allow all humans to live in dignity. Arirang TV will carry the Pope's address live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The leaders of the world's two most powerful countries are meeting in Washington today. U.S. President Barack Obama and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping sit down to help ensure a new type of major country relationship develops on the right track. The two presidents will exchange views on bilateral ties, domestic and foreign policies, and regional and international situations. But it's unclear how much ground they'll make. Xi and Obama are at odds over alleged Chinese cyber spying, Beijing's economic policies, and territorial disputes in the South China Sea. But they're expected to reach important agreements on economy and trade, energy, and climate change, among other items. This summit will be the fifth between the two heads of state. Xi just wrapped up a short trip to Seattle, where he met with the heads of major tech companies from the U.S. and other countries. Apple has released the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus and brightened up their color selection with the new Rose Gold edition. The new model has modest improvements compared to the last upgrade, including a revamped camera and a new 3D touch system recognition system. Eager consumers slept in queues outside a Paris store with chairs and sleeping bags.
I think I like to be the first to have it, so I just wanted to have it now. I guess it's a bit just selfish as I want it now, so I just wait in line and get it now.
Make sure you're getting the real deal when you buy a new iPhone, though. Counterfeiters are already selling fake versions at unauthorized Apple stores in Shenzhen, China. The counterfeits look like the real thing, but at just $91, they're nowhere near the price of a real one. They apparently take blurry photos, too. Those are today's stories. See you next week.
The weather should be very pleasant through the Chuseok holiday. Mostly sunny skies will dominate the forecast across much of the country, with even summer-like highs hovering in the upper 20s. So beware of big gaps in temperatures if you plan to be outdoors in the morning and the evening. Now, the brightest full moon of the year will make its appearance on Chuseok Day, which is forecast to be a super moon. So the moon is going to look bigger and brighter, and it should be visible in Seoul starting at 5:50 p.m. So don't forget to check it out and make your wish upon it. Now moving on to tomorrow's temperatures. Daily high here in Seoul will hike up to 29, while Daegu and Gwangju jump up to 28 and 27 for Busan. As for the other regions, it seems like Daejeon and Jeju Island will reach 28 and 25, while Dokdo peaks at 23. Enjoy the warm condition as much as possible, since October should be a cooler one, with temperatures dropping down to the low 20s, signaling the peak of the autumn season. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that's your primetime news for you. Thank you for staying with us. Do tune in at 11 p.m. Korea time for our special live coverage on the speech Pope Francis will give at the UN General Assembly.
And have a great weekend, and goodbye for now.